absolutely the worst time in the world for a phone call, right as I'm trying to get this thing going. uh, the guy who just tried to call me is probably going to see this stream too. That'll be funny. Welcome, folks. Good morning to you. It is still morning where I am. I know that our East Coast friends are getting much closer to afternoon now, but this is going to be a new thing. This is a new stream that we're going to be doing regularly. We have our reasons for it. It was kind of a last minute call, so I was actually going to go. I was going to go live at 10, but I was trying to set everything up and get everything ready for the show, and um, just couldn't get done in time. But moving forward, yeah, Dark King Pilled Energy. Colin says, yeah, that's right. Moving forward, this is for the foreseeable future. I'm going to be going live every morning at 10 o'clock Central Time. We'll see how this works. Maybe we need to go a little earlier. Maybe we need to go a little later. Probably not later, but this is going to become a new regular stream. These streams here will not be part of uh, uh, the regular podcast. So if you just listen to the audio version, you won't get this. You're only going to get this on YouTube. This is going to be a YouTube only stream. And we came up with a really cool name for it yesterday. Cooper and I did, and we're working on getting the graphic and the branding and everything for it. So both of us are both Cooper and I have like a kind of a distinct art ho side. Him much more than me. So when we get some new opportunity to generate cool graphics, then you know that we've got to spend a lot of time on that, waste a lot of time on that, rather than just just doing it or whatever. So the I'll tell you guys where how we came up with the name for the show, and then I'll tell you what the name's going to be. And it was a cooperative effort, but really the praise needs to go to Cooper. We need to puff up Cooper's ego today, guys. Um, I decided I wanted to just start doing a regular show in the morning like this. It's a different time of day, and it's kind of fun to start the day off thinking about a bunch of stuff and then going and doing a show about it. And I was trying to come up with a name, like kind of a I don't know, just a good name for it. And I told Cooper, I was on the phone with him yesterday, and I said, I want to, you've got the king pilled name. And so then I want to do something that has to do with like your morning routine kind of. So your morning routine, you've got like your pill dispenser thing with the one that has like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You take your supplements or your drugs or whatever you take to make yourself function. And I was like, it'd be cool to have like, okay, we're gonna have like our morning king pill dispenser, but I need to come up with some kind of clever name that doesn't sound gay. And so yeah, Medminder, yeah, right. So well, Emmanuel says deprived of sleep pilled, yes. Um, I guess those of you on the West Coast, this actually is morning for you. It's starting to tend toward afternoon here, but so I was telling this to Cooper yesterday, and his mind went in a similar but very different direction that actually I loved and completely abandoned the original idea. So I was going to try to make some sort of like Medminder, some sort of play on that. A good friend of the show, Justin Campbell, has the morning after show, so that was kind of taken already. And Michael Robertson says you should call it Real Coffee with Scott Adams. Yeah. um. So Cooper said he's like, you know how you have the stupid white chicks that have their they get up in the morning and they have their coffee and they open up their morning horoscope. And he was like, what if you call it the astrolabe? And I was like, oh, that is really cool. Astrolabe is a really, really cool name. Now, for those of you, I knew what it like. I didn't know the name of an astrolabe, but I knew the concept. It's kind of like a precursor to a sextant, which is a funny word to say. Um, and so I'll just to show you guys. Um, we'll see if Natashki winds up in here today. She might get kind of triggered by this. Hopefully not. But so this is what an astrolabe is. If I could share my screen. So here's an astrolabe. It's like an old school device that was used for like mapping out a calendar, charting the stars, that sort of thing. So and this just looks super. Just the look of them by themselves. It's Kino. So you got this cool like it's got the degrees, the calendar, the months, the shape. You got like a model of the Earth kind of. The Smithsonian says the story of the astrolabe, the original smartphone. So yeah, we'll be that'll be the name of this show. This show's going to be the astrolabe, and basically the idea with it is um, I'm just going to go live every morning and just basically kind of share whatever is present on my mind at the moment. In particular, so I spend a lot of time uh, keeping up with various different social, cultural, political trends happening on Twitter. I've been on Twitter for, I don't know, 15 years now, and I've watched it become essentially the hub of global politics. Anything that happens, like, it's going to come through Twitter before it hits everything else. It doesn't necessarily start on Twitter. There was a point in time where a lot of it did start on Twitter, and there's still a lot that does. But for the most part, as soon as something starts happening, it shows up on Twitter. It's just become the global town square. So I've got my ear to the ground constantly, listening to the tides, and totally mixed metaphor. And so there's Twitter and the time I spend on there, and so I'll just be, as I start noticing different stories, then I'll just bring them to the astrolabe, and I'll present them to you guys so that you guys can benefit from the early knowledge. Now, what was it, 3 months ago maybe, we started talking about this PayPal mafia thing, which is something that's just started because a good friend of the show, Jason from the 2-Bit podcast, was like, hey, you should look at this. Well, first of all, random username in the chat here was like, you should check out this Vivek Ramaswamy guy. And then Jason said, this PayPal mafia thing is kind of interesting. There's lots of different connections here to Peter Thiel, a guy he and I had both been interested in because of his connection to Rene Girard. And he said you should check out this PayPal mafia concept. And I'd never even heard of it. But I looked, there's a Wikipedia for it. I was like, well, this is interesting. There's some interesting names on here that I've recognized as being connected to some other interesting things. So I just started just deep diving. And before I knew it, I was just turning up connections all over the place and started realizing there's a legitimate counter elite forming here. I guess I think even calling it a counter elite is almost a misnomer. It's really just a rise of a new elite class that is ready to supplant the old elite class. And I don't necessarily know if all of these guys are our friends. It seems very clear that some of them most definitely are not. But then there's some who very much seem to be, or at least are trending in that direction. So this is worth watching, if for nothing else than just to be able to kind of see what's coming. Like, you're looking out over the ocean and you see dark clouds forming. And, okay, well, that's bringing something new. Or if you happen to be in the storm and the dark clouds are over you, you're looking off into the ocean, you're like, well, those clouds look different. They have a different shape. There's a different color. There's a different weather pattern over there and it's moving toward us. So let's study this and see what it is before it hits us. So I mentioned this PayPal mafia thing. We did several streams on it, and the idea caught on really fast. I wound up talking to Oren McIntyre about it. I talked to Oliver at Semiagog about it. I talked to AA about it. And there's a lot of people who seemed very interested in this. And since then, almost every day, I'd say at least probably 4 times a week, someone is tagging me in something on Twitter saying, look, here's more evidence of these Silicon Valley tech elite types who are have either been politically ambiguous, just kind of normie, mainstream, whatever kind of normal, common mainstream person believes, they believe that they sign on to. So they haven't really played their political cards that much. Or there's some who have been very politically active, very politically outspoken, and many of them have been, whether or not the individual person is our friend, so to speak, is kind of immaterial to me. What I want to know is what sort of initiatives are they pushing? What's going to be the knock-on effects of these different initiatives? Are they bringing different ideas into the public square, so to speak, for people to start talking about? Because you start noticing the stuff comes into the public square, people start talking about it, it changes the conversation, which then changes the actions that people take in one direction or the other. And you can start charting out the patterns through all these different cascading effects of the conversation. And I will say at the outset, the conversation is definitely gay. There's definitely a very kind of weird thing about like having this conversation and this narrative that we talk about, but it's a real thing. I mean, I don't know how to. It's a thing that's there. It's kind of like we're like out going for a hike, and I'm like, hey, look at that weird rock outcropping up there. Look how it's shaped. That's kind of odd. And I just see a rocky outcropping, and I want to talk about the thing that I see. So the narrative is whatever the narrative is. It's very obviously a real thing that consumes, like, millions of careers are built off of the narrative directly, and then millions more are built off of the downstream effects of the narrative. Whether you're using the narrative to kind of look into the future and try to see where things are going for the sake of investing, or trying to put your money where your mouth is, or if you're just trying to figure out what's happening just as a matter of like hobby, which it kind of is for me. It's sort of like a historian is someone who goes back into the past and looks at past events and studies them in great detail, tries to pull up newspaper clippings or books or major events that happened that people are writing about. And they're studying all these writings, trying to piece together a story of what happened in the past. Well, there's no reason you can't do this in the present in real time, and that's kind of how it feels for me. Like I feel like I'm sort of a historian of the present, just trying to gather what's going on and understand the things that are happening. But then beyond just the point of observation and critique or deconstruction or whatever, like if it's just that, if it's just you're observing the thing and you're critiquing it and breaking it down, but that's it, there's some utility in that. But if that becomes the all-consuming force, this is ultimately this is the path of liberalism, the path of degeneracy and decay and deconstruction, because all you're doing is breaking things down. So if you want to be like a chaos agent, for example, like, yeah, the world needs some chaos agents, but the world doesn't need millions of chaos agents. When you get millions of chaos agents, then everything is bad. Even if those individual chaos agents might be motivated by what they think is good or appropriate or correct, if they're dedicating all of their time and energy to trying to just tear down existing structures for no reason other than, oh, this structure's bad, just get rid of it. Well, this is the libertarian impulse. I happened to stick my dick in the proverbial hornet's nest of the Groypers yesterday, and it was funny. I'm standing there smoking a cigarette and scrolling through Twitter, and I see a tweet. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting tweet. That made me think some things. Tweet from Charles Haywood. So I quote tweet it and type some thoughts on it. These thoughts were about Nick Fuentes, and not a guy that I've followed super closely, but I have at times in the past and kind of gotten a feel for his for him and what he's doing. And it's very clear. You can kind of pick up on these patterns. Like you do enough studying of people, and you can start identifying archetypes or memes of people. And so I just tweeted my thoughts on it. And man, it was just, my timeline was just buzzing with all these people. And there was several other people, prominent right-wing dissident Twitter people, who also commented on it. So I learned after the fact that I was actually weighing in on, apparently I'm engagement baiting or something. No, I'm just literally just tweeting the thing I think about the thing that showed up on my timeline. And then people start replying, so I reply to the people who reply. And it's just a very fascinating phenomenon to me. I'm kind of like, it's like I'm Jane Goodall, out there watching all the chimps. And every once in a while, the chimps notice you and they get real mad about it. So, so this is kind of the like historian of the present times, sort of. I'm just watching what's happening, and then most of the time, I don't necessarily know what to do with this information, but I know somebody probably does. And I've been doing this long enough now that I talk about the things that I'm interested in, and then I get DMs and messages and emails from people who are like, "Oh man, I'm so glad you're talking about this. I'm so glad I found this subject. It's totally changed the way I see the world, or it's changed how the decisions I make in my life." And I'm, oh, okay, well then I'm just going to keep doing it. If people get mad about what I'm doing, or they think it's dumb or whatever, okay, that's fine. It probably is. But there's people who are getting value from it, so I'm just going to keep doing it. And so this is going to be the Astrolabe. It's going to be a combination of observations on Twitter. I saw someone who said recently that it would be interesting, and I actually agree with this. It'd be interesting to see someone just sit and scroll through their Twitter timeline. For one thing, it's interesting to me because I want to see what, like, I have my experience of Twitter. I have the algorithm that's tailored to me. And I've got a very clear idea of how this works because I have 2 different Twitter accounts that I'm pretty active on. I keep up on them regularly, interacting and viewing stuff. So I'm training the algorithm, and they're very different. And they're very different in a very clear way. And I can tell when I start looking at or consuming a certain type of content, I start getting more of that. Incidentally, this is kind of funny. You've got a lot of people who are complaining about what their timeline shows them. Oh, I'm so tired of seeing all this stuff. This is such a terrible platform. It's so negative and it's just like doom pilling me and it's like I don't have that experience of Twitter. I mean, there's definitely lots of stuff that I don't like seeing, but for example, I don't have. I don't want to say the actual words here for the sake of algorithm stuff, but there's a particular type of bot that a lot of people complain about. They're like, oh, my whole Twitter experience is just filled with this particular type of bot. And I never see them. Never. I get like random DMs from these like obviously fake accounts that are advertised to appeal to a man who's looking for degeneracy. I'll get the spam DMs from them. I don't know why, but otherwise I never see anything on the like that on the platform, which tells me something about the way that I act on the platform doesn't make the platform think that it needs to send me these sorts of things. So when people start complaining about the type of stuff they're seeing in their algorithm, that tells me that's the stuff that you're consuming. When you're scrolling the timeline and you scroll past something like that, you stop and you look at it. You go look at the replies. You open it. Like you open the video. All of these things are symbols or signs to the algorithm. Give me more of this content. So it's kind of if you're complaining that you're seeing naked women in the replies on your tweets or in your timeline, that's because you're stopping and looking at them to put a fine point on it. A couple of super chats here real quick. Whoops. $5 Canadian. Ah, cool. We get some fake money today. Cordy YZZ7, who I'm pretty sure I know who this guy is. He says, I'm glad I'm not the only one who questions Matt's physiognomy at the Romano. I think it's 0.02% or 0.06% or something Ashkenazi. I'm thinking about going. I haven't logged into my 23andMe since I first did it like 6 years ago or something. I need to log in and take a screenshot and post that and highlight the whatever it is 0.06 or 0.6 or some fractional percent of Ashkenazi, because I've got the attention now of the guys who are going to freak out about it. See, it's proof. I'm controlled. There was another super chat up here. Also some more fake money from Cordy ZZ7. $2 Canadian. Thank you, sir. He says, Astrolabia stream. Cooper, you should appreciate that. I didn't realize the super chats have a different design now. I don't like that. It looks gay. I'll fix that later. The Romano 725. How did you grow that beard without testosterone? I don't know, man. It just sprouted off my face. I guess maybe it's all the estrogen leaking out of me. All right. Yeah, 1 drop rule. I definitely am guilty by the 1 drop rule. Now, this isn't the only. I've got some other stuff I want to share with you guys, but this isn't the only new show that we're going to be doing on a regular basis. We are going to continue doing the regular King Pilled streams, so 2 or 3 times a week. It's not going to be completely on a regular basis just because of our schedules. But Cooper and I will still be doing our regular streams, which will be recorded and uploaded as podcasts on all the podcatchers. And then we've got some guests too. We're going to be doing more guests, more interviews. And some of those interviews may wind up being on a morning show like this, or they may wind up being in the evening. It'll just depend on the guest schedule. But Cooper is also going to be doing his own stream that's going to have an entirely different feel than this. Cooper and I are very different in terms of the type of content that we're inclined to produce. And Cooper's here. Let me pull up another visual here for you guys. Cooper's show. He wanted me to mention this now to make sure that none of these stupid spurgs can steal his idea. Cooper's show is going to be called the Alembic. And let me show you guys what an alembic is. So this here is it going to give me a good picture? Yeah, here you go. So here's an alembic. So it's an apparatus that's used in distillation. It's like an alchemist's tool, and it also can be used, or the term can be used more symbolically to refer to something that refines or transmutes as if by distillation. So Cooper's going to be doing the alembic, and he's going to give you um, his own takes on the world from the demented mind of a a weird art ho zoomer, because that's kind of what he is. I hope he's still in here. More pyramids, Michael Crafton says. Yes, we'll definitely do more pyramid stuff. It's funny, those shows, the viewership on those is much lower, and I don't know if that's because people aren't interested aren't interested in them. They aren't interested in them yet, or if it's just like the title. Like I kind of threw the titles together, so maybe I didn't make them appealing enough. But we're definitely going to touch more on that sort of thing, because part of what we're, I think, wanting to inspire is, well, I'll speak for myself. I don't know about Cooper. Cooper is he's his own breed. I'll let him tell you guys what his goals are. But my goal in a lot of this stuff is I want to, beyond just encouraging young men to take responsibility for their own lives and begin building stuff, I want to uh, rehabilitate the idea of science from the perspective of uh, like science has been, you get the capital S science, the thing that has become like, we've ruined the word science. Like, we've ruined the ability to describe this thing that is science, which is actually really important and interesting. I actually think it's one of the most interesting things. Legitimate science, well done, is very interesting. There's a legitimate process here that is not just, acceptable, but it's actually necessary. This is an important thing, an important way for us to encounter the world and understand what it is that we're encountering. But it's become perverted and distorted for good reason. Like, I think the people who have have perverted the meaning and the use of the word science are fucking criminals. Because we need science. We need the scientific process. We need to be able to look at the world around us and understand what we're seeing, and to do tests and trial and error, determining cause and effect. These are all fundamental things about who we are as human beings. In fact, I'd say this is when we're called to exercise dominion over the earth, when bringing heaven on earth is like bringing order to the universe. We're order generating machines. This is what we were designed for. I'm speaking colloquially. I don't obviously think that we're machines. I'm not, don't spurg out about the specific terminology. Like, this is what we're created for. This is why we're here. If we believe that God created the world and that he manifested his nature in his creation, then studying and understanding nature is akin to studying and understanding scripture. There's an order to the hierarchy here, but that doesn't make it any less valuable or important. We need to be studying nature and understanding the secrets that nature has to tell us, because as we do that, we come to understand and experience the character and personhood of God, because it's manifested in the things that he's created. Where people go sideways is they begin worshiping nature as if it is God. Becomes this all powerful, personalized thing, like deity in and of itself. That's obviously wrong, but that doesn't mean that nature isn't a manifestation of God. It follows order and laws. There are laws in there not because of some arbitrary thing, but because those laws tell us something about the nature of God and our relationship to him. So, yes, the study of stuff. That's right. Studying stuff is cool. Mother Nature. So that's actually, I was thinking about this yesterday. We refer to Mother Nature, and when you're speaking kind of poetically, you'll say like the land, like the land was speaking to me, or we kind of personify nature. And that can, to the modern mind, that gets kind of weird. It's kind of a little odd to think of nature as having a personality. That kind of gets into some kind of weird, sketchy stuff. But we also have like a dog, and a dog has a personality, or a horse, or We have these pets that we bring in and we care for them and we provide for them and we interact with them as if they're conscious creatures. And this is how the ancient people saw the world. They saw the world as having a consciousness that you can interact with in the same way that a dog or a bear or a sheep or whatever has a consciousness that you can interact with. And the world does have a consciousness in that sense. It isn't inappropriate to think of the world that way. That doesn't mean the world is a deity to worship, but these thoughts can and should be separated. So in studying, the proper study of nature is a personal exercise. It's something that only happens through a person. It's mediated through a person. We participate in the creative process by studying nature and figuring out ways that you can combine natural elements to produce new things. This is like the foundation of human behavior. And this gets into the conversation of technology and our proper role with technology and how we should relate to it, and et cetera, et cetera. Because technology is ultimately an outworking of human action. You can't really come up with a clear, non-arbitrary definition of technology that creates a distinction between, like, the use of your arm. Having an arm that you use to pick something up is an application of technology. It's like a natural biological technology that you have. Sight is a biological technology. And humans have the unique capacity to actually externalize our technology. There's animals that have limited capacity for this, like beavers building dams, chimps using rocks to bang on things. They've got limited ability to externalize their technology, but the use and application of technology is a fundamental human thing. You can't simply just go to war with technology. To go to war with technology writ large is to go to war with humanity. Cooper says technology is an extension of the will. Yes, correct. So technology as an extension of the will then means if you're studying technology, you're learning things about the human will. And this is a way that we actually learn ourselves. Not that we ourselves learn, but the way we learn about ourselves. We learn how we work by studying our technology, because our technology is made in our image. It's made to reflect us because we make it to use it ourselves. So it's born out of our current condition. If I'm creating some type of technology to do something, that's because I currently can't do that, either at that level of scale or specificity or what have you. So studying technology is studying human nature. And human nature is itself a reflection of the nature of God. We are made in his image and likeness. We are made like him and to become like him. This is the ultimate will and destiny of humanity. So then indirectly, studying the technologies that humans create itself is a way of studying God. Again, which is not to say the technology itself is God. But when you study it, when you understand it, you understand the principles upon which it operates, you understand the story out of which it arose. That tells you something about humanity, which in turn tells you something about God. And this is a natural hierarchical characteristic of reality itself. So, the Alembic will be Cooper's show. The Astrolabe will be this show. And you notice I got the different colors back here, very big visual difference. The other thing that we're going to do, beyond just looking at tweets and seeing what people are saying and me weighing in on different things that I see, the other thing that I spend a lot of time doing is watching YouTube videos. I already do it a lot, and it seems that every time I do it and I pull out something interesting and start talking to people about it, they find it interesting. So I'm just going to start making it a focus. Rather than just being a hobby, I'm going to actually do this with intentionality. I go down different rabbit holes, and I kind of am just following impulse a little bit. It's just whatever rabbit hole seems to appeal to me. I'll go wind down that for a while. So my algorithm on my YouTube channel is very, very odd. It's constantly changing, and it'll have really disparate things. I mean, sometimes it's a sports rabbit hole that I go down, and then sometimes it's like esoteric science, and then sometimes it's like psychology, human personality stuff, and sometimes it's ancient civilizations, or it's normal like commentary on modern day politics or studying past literary works, all this different stuff. So the show was going to be, there's not going to be a real strict structure to it. It's just going to be whatever I'm watching or reading or tweeting about that seems to have some relevance to people. And I'll try to take these different threads and combine them. Sometimes it'll just be like, hey, this is an interesting thing I saw, or this is fun, this is interesting, this is humorous, and I'll share that with you guys. An example of something like that is this guy is one of the Cooper, and I can't get enough of him. He's probably in the top 10 internet commentators of all time. You may see more related to him at some point in the future. We'll see. But this is our good friend, Frankie McDonald. And he's got a very special message for you guys today. He's doing a tornado siren. Can you believe that? This guy could do a tornado siren. My son would love him. I need to show Frankie to my son. For a brief period there, Eastwood said, instead of tornado, he said tornado, kind of like combining tornado and tomato. Now he's kind of stopped, which is sad. But he would get just an absolute hoot out of this. So here's Frankie doing a tornado siren.
Hey everybody, let's do a tornado siren. I'm Frank Devil. Hey everybody, let's.
Good old Frankie, man, doing a tornado siren. Yeah, you guys will see more content related to Frankie at some point in the future. So actually, before we get into some of the Twitter stuff here, let me first share a couple. I don't really have a lot to say about these couple of YouTube videos. There's just some parts that I enjoyed, and I wanted to share with you guys. Maybe you guys haven't listened to these conversations yet, and seeing this will inspire you to go do that. Buck Johnson says, Matt, I will pay you $5 to do that during liturgy next week. That'd probably be the most expensive $5 I ever earned. Depends on who is there that week. Okay, so I gotta scroll through all the kids' YouTube videos because Eastwood uses my YouTube channel. Okay, here. So one of the big rabbit holes that I've gone down recently is Tucker Carlson. I tweeted about him, and it was funny. I just said I think that Tucker Carlson's radicalization is far more advanced than we've really appreciated yet. And that's I think it's one of the best performing tweets that I've ever had. Again, this is just I'm out walking the dog, and I have a thought, and I tweet it out, and it's got like 200,000 impressions. So that idea resonated with people on some level, whether they disagreed with it or agreed with it. For the sake of the algorithm, if they disagree with it, it's probably better because you get more engagement, which I love. Some guy, when I had my tweet about Fuentes yesterday, some guy replied and said, you're just trying to get engagement. And I was just like, yeah, thanks for the engagement, bro. So I've been going down this Tucker Carlson rabbit hole, and he is very advanced. He has end run the pipeline into dissident right-wing thinking, and he's gone deep into it very quickly. And there's something I don't know if this is like maybe you just have to have sufficient emotional intelligence to be able to, like, you can sit and listen to someone do like a long form interview. This is one of the great things about the Joe Rogan style of interviewing is that you can't bullshit that. You have to be, it draws sincerity out of you naturally, because sitting and just staring at a screen and just talking, or just staring at someone else with a camera in front of you and just talking at length in one spot for 3 hours, you can't bullshit through that. You might be able to get through a little bit of it. You might be able to get through one conversation like that. But eventually, it's going to draw your natural, like who you are is going to be revealed. So someone like Tucker, when he's talking, you could tell that this is sincere from the heart. There's no way you could bullshit the Tucker Carlson conversation patterns and the things he chooses to talk about and the way he talks about them. Anybody who thinks that Tucker is like a controlled op or something like that is your radar for controlled opposition is horrendously malfunctioning. It's like the guy is controlled by Zionists, which is precisely why he gets directly to the heart of what it is that's wrong with them and speaks about it in a really profound, deeply spiritually cognizant way. If this is the controlled opposition, I'll take it. Like, that would almost be a white pill. Like, wow. The controlled opposition that they're employing is saying all of the things that I would say if I was in their shoes. There's been a small handful of things he said that I've been like, okay, there's receipt. He's still got the lib or the sort of the historically Americanist secular mindset. But he's very sincere, very authentic. And you can see this when he does things like go on a show with Theo Vaughn. I'll show you guys a clip from that here in just a minute. He goes and he talks to Theo Vaughn, and it's like he can go from Theo Vaughn to Eric Prince seamlessly. Very, very different personalities, different views of the world, different, I don't know, like the types of things that they like to think and talk about, their personalities. They're very, very different. But he naturally fits in with both of them and can have a really interesting, provoking conversation that very much strays about as far off the, shout out Tom Woods, the index card of allowable opinion as anybody in the public eye is doing. Speaking of Tom Woods, you guys should, if you haven't listened to him in a while, you should go listen to his new intro. There's something that is surprisingly missing from it. Or maybe not surprisingly, depending on how closely you followed Tom lately. But he released that old intro song that's been there since I started listening to him 10 years ago or whatever. Nope, it's gone. He has binned that one, and he's got a new one. So one of the really good conversations that Tucker had recently was with Thomas Massie. And I'm not going to bring out, there's not anything particularly profound in this. Actually, there's one part that's profound. So I'll touch on just kind of the back end of that. But then you should just go sit and listen to the entire thing. Thomas Massie is the best of us. He is fantastic. The dude is living the life that all of the fruitcakes on the internet who want to act like he's some sort of controlled op or whatever, like he's living the actual life. The way he's built out his off-grid home, the way he went about doing it, and the way he's engineered all sorts of different solutions to different problems is very, very, it's good. Like if every single one of us started living like Thomas Massie, the world would be a very different place in a very short period of time. So you should definitely go listen to all 2 hours, 9 minutes, and 39 seconds of this interview. But to wet your whistle a little bit, I'm going to share with you a couple clips from it. So he talked about one of the things he talked about was AIPAC and the AIPAC influence on politics, which is definitely the headline that came out of this, and that's interesting. This is tying into the tail end of his conversation about that, but he talks about his relationship with Trump. Or no, first I want to do his part about Mitch McConnell, because this dude does an incredible Mitch McConnell impression. He also does a really good Trump impression. We're going to get that here in just a second as well. But so I'll wet your guys' whistle with this one, and then you can go listen to the whole thing yourself. So I'm just dropping in at the tail end of their AIPAC conversation, and it's going to go into their conversation about Mitch McConnell.
Whatever, 12, 14 years in Congress, 12 years. Have you ever seen any indication that Russia is influencing election outcomes or candidates or members?
Not in a quiet way. Like, they'll put out statements. Russia obviously has Russia Today, RT.
Yeah, I think it's been banned, but yeah.
I like Kentucky Fried Chicken, of which I'm a big fan, being from Kentucky, right? They realized that fried became sort of a pejorative, and people didn't want to eat fried food, so they changed the name to KFC, so you don't have to say fried. Okay, Russia Today changed their name to RT, so you don't have to say Russia. But there's a strong analogy there. But I mean, there are efforts you'd be a fool to think that they're not trying to influence things
Sure.
here, just like we are there. We have what is it, Radio Free Europe and Voice of America. We have, we spend $1 billion, well over $1 billion on the foreign propaganda that's out in the open that we know about, right? So there are foreigners spending money on propaganda over here as well. I don't want to say they're not involved, but people don't say, oh, I need to go talk to my Russia guy.
But you've never, like in the cloakroom or on the floor or at dinner, you've never heard another Republican member say, I'd love to vote for this, but Putin doesn't want me to.
I have never heard that.
You
in
haven't?
my life.
Okay. What about China?
No, unless it's a spy sleeping with a Democrat, I'm sure there's some of that going on.
Yeah, but that's not in public. So how do you think, it's just interesting because you're clearly not a bigot. I think it's very obvious. And they've called you one and they've spent millions of dollars against you over the years, and it has had no effect. You get reelected in the primary in the 70s. So
real quick, Slowboy Whiteboard said, I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm just saying he reiterates everything the internet is already saying a week late. This is referring to Tucker. Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. This is what leadership is. People think leadership is something where like you're the one who's inventing the ideas and then like getting people to follow you based on the ideas you've invented. And that's not at all what leadership is, particularly this category of leader. He's undoubtedly a leader, whether he wants to be or not. If he went off, just completely off the grid and disappeared from the public eye, that in itself would lead people in a particular direction. Leadership is something that has been thrust upon him. He has the ear of the president. He has the ear of Elon Musk. He has the ear of basically every powerful person in the world is listening to what Tucker Carlson says. Whether they are against him or with him, they're listening to what he says and acting because they know the influence that he has. So they're acting accordingly. So just the mere fact that he's listening to what our little corners of the internet are saying, which he very obviously is, that in itself is a good thing. This is objectively very good. The king prototype, the king or the archetype, the king listens to his people and leads according to the will of his people. He has to serve as the filter to determine when the will of the people is just wrong and when it's not. And then he mediates that gap, which means he has to have charisma, wisdom, all these sorts of things. But the king is ultimately a reflection of his people. His people reflect onto him, and he reflects. He takes their reflection and transmutes it and reflects it back to them as a more perfect representation of them. That's what a good king does. Now, every human being falls short of that. We live in a fallen world. This is the reality. So our judgment of a good king, and by king, I don't mean strictly like the political role. I'm talking, this is the whole king-pilled idea, is that every single man is called to be a king in his own way. Certain men will become kings of kings. But at every level of that hierarchy, each king has the responsibility of reflecting the king above him. And the ultimate king has to reflect the ultimate king. The Christ is a reflection of his Father, and then we are reflections of him. We reflect him back to himself, and our responsibility at each node in this hierarchy is to take what's reflected below us, transmute it into something good, and both reflect it up and down at the same time. We become a channel where we are channeling divinity, bringing the heaven down to earth, and we're also channeling humanity, bringing earth up to heaven. So this is precisely what Tucker's doing. And if you listen to all of the long form stuff, it's also very clear that many of this stuff is not coming from the little corners of the internet. Some of the stuff is coming from conversations that he has in secret with prominent people. Some of it's coming from his own mind, from his own study and his own reading. You could tell he reads voraciously. The references he's able to call up on the spot, you can tell this guy's very well read and he has a very sharp mind. He's got a lot of horsepower running between those ears. So anyways, we'll continue.
Like, why are they still spending against you in your statewide? And can you just continue to serve in Congress while disobeying?
Well, they say that they don't want me to run statewide. They're worried that I'll run for McConnell's seat. And so they're trying to send me a message. That's what they would tell you.
But why?
I don't know what the message is. Maybe
it's a little presumptuous to decide to be.
I've never said that I'm running for the Senate, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty much disinterested in it, personally and publicly. But just in case they're running ads statewide. Now, mind you, there are 6 congressional districts in Kentucky, and I only represent one of them. They're running the ads in all 6 congressional districts, just in case.
Amazing. What do you think of Mitch McConnell after all these years of being in the delegation with him?
He's a shrewd guy.
Yep.
He's quick. Let me give you an example of how quick he is. So we had a Congressman, Jamie Comer, who's now chair of the Oversight Committee. He got elected in a special election, which means you come in the middle of a term and you have to boot up with no staff. And so it's kind of, disorienting. So Mitch McConnell had an event for Jamie Comer on his first day in Congress. It was in a townhouse with like 200 lobbyists. By the way, I'm never going to get invited to one of these now that I tell you the story. And so Jamie's there and McConnell goes, I believe Jamie took his first vote tonight. And
that's such a perfect invitation.
And I wasn't supposed to speak, but I interrupted Senator McConnell, who was at the time the majority leader. And I said, yes, Senator McConnell, he did take his first vote. And I know he has no staff. So I advise Jamie, when you walk into the chamber, look at how I vote and then vote the other way and you'll be just fine. And 200 lobbyists thought it was a pretty good joke and they were laughing. And as the laughter died down, McConnell goes, well, Thomas, I'm glad you and I are giving Jamie the same advice. And then
okay, so one thing I want to highlight out of that is he describes in this, he touches on it there, but he goes into more detail at other points in the conversation. He's describing the way that congressmen vote, like how they derive their votes. They vote based on what their staff tells them to do. He talks about his role. He's got to be campaigning. He's got to be going out and pressing the flesh and relating to his people. And he's got all this different stuff. He's got to meet with lobbyists. He's got to do all these different things. So a congressman is ultimately beholden to his staff. He comes in and he votes. This is the case for virtually all of them. They come in and they vote based on what their staff tells them to vote. Now, a congressman who knows how this works, there's kind of like a microcosm of the same thing that happened with Trump, where he's going to come in and he needs to bring in his own staff. So he needs to make sure that the people who are sifting through all this information, reading through all of these bills, bringing these lobbyists, going out and taking the temperature of everything and bringing it back to him. He needs to make sure those are people that he can trust and depend on, that see the world the same way he does, which means they need to be filtered and selected themselves. There has to be some kind of filtering mechanism. But the vast majority of people who are running are just running because someone with power and money came and said, hey, I want you to run and I will fund your campaign. And I'll fund your campaign. And as soon as I'm done doing that, I'll fund your staff. I'll provide you the staff. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It'll be like, just works out of the box. You just got to get in there, set up on your desk. I'll send you a list of talking points and you'll get paid handsomely for it and be taken care of for the rest of your life. This is the way it works. Now, you can look at that and you go, stupid, oh, we're in corruption. And, well, yeah, duh, obviously. There are corrupt people with money who want to bend the system to their will. But if you understand that this is how the system works, if this is something that all of these commenters and tweeters and everyone, we all understand that this is how the system works. The congressman is just a figurehead who's there to represent the stuff that his staff tells him to do, and his staff are paid and installed in those positions by big NGOs and what have you. If you've got such a deep, intimate understanding of how the system works, why are you not gaming it? Why are you not establishing congressmen and giving them staff who are going to lead them in the direction you want them to go? If you don't have the resources for that, why are you not in the working to get them? Cooperating with other like-minded people to pool the resources to make it happen. Or securing people who have resources already and don't really know what to do with them and saying, hey, I know what to do with that. I can put that to work. If we have this deep understanding, this is like the frickin' libertarians who run around sniffing their own farts about how great they've figured everything out. We know all the answers. We can't get anybody to listen to us. That makes you useless and gay. If you know what's more valuable than knowing all the answers? Getting people to listen to you. That has to be a prerequisite for knowing all the answers. If knowing all the answers is going to have any sort of utility whatsoever. If we know how the system is rigged, the blueprint is right there for us to rig the system in our direction. And it doesn't have to be some great grand fell swoop where we take over everything all at once and usher in whatever based stand. This is just an evolution on the libertarian Ancapistan mindset. We don't have to do everything in one fell swoop. We're going to have some long lives. Presumably, if you plan on living to 70 or 80, that means you've got, 30, 40, 50 years to work on this? There's lots and lots of time. And it just so happens that there's technology available to us now that allows us to leverage our activity. Whether that's leveraging it socially, getting larger and larger networks of people to focus on certain things together, different interesting ways of funding projects. There's all sorts of different avenues where the system can be taken on. But there's this crabs in a bucket sort of phenomenon where every single person who starts taking on some little part of the system, all of these guys, these fart sniffers who understand how everything works, they just sit there, no, see, you're wrong on this thing. Oh, no, you talked to that guy once. You haven't paid sufficient deference to the JQ. So we're just gonna make it our mission to just pull you back down into the bucket until you're sufficiently purified. This is just an even more retarded version of the libertarian phenomenon. It's just evolved to where now instead of the state, it's the Jews or the Illuminati or the communists or whatever. These are just different iterations of this same gay liberal mind virus that just paralyzes people into not just inaction, but to where the only actions that they take are trying to stop other people's actions. You don't even have anything to bring to the table yourself, except for like the hand to sweep everything else off the table. Nope, not good enough. Nope, not perfect. Can't accept anything except for perfect. Only perfect will do. Well, you know what? Humans aren't perfect. What's the little aphorism? Imperfect action is better than perfect complacency. Or something like that. Imperfect action is better than perfect complacency. Yeah, I'll see that. I'll do that. That's the phrase we're gonna run with here. Stop being fucking complacent. Take some action. And if you don't have the balls or the resources or the will to take action yourself, then just mind your business. Put yourself in a position where you can. Put your money where your mouth is. I tweeted this week that the greatest thing about the social media is that it gives anyone a voice. And the worst thing about social media is that it gives anyone a voice. Some people should not have a voice. Some people should not be allowed to tweet or comment or weigh in. They bring nothing of value to the table. All they do is they distort and they sow chaos. They're counterproductive to their own ends. And I think the majority of people are too dumb to realize that. I don't even think they're necessarily malicious. I think they're just kind of dumb and immature. They're just modeling behavior that's been modeled to them by their leaders who are themselves agents of chaos and disruption. We don't need disruption. We need building. Effective building will disrupt. But it will actually have something to supplant in the place of whatever was disrupted. Simply disrupting is just liberalism. Politicized resentment. You just take a category of people, you sow a whole bunch of resentment into them, get them real angry and worked up. You say, go fight this thing. Just go destroy it, break it down, cast it to the ground and piss on it. And that feels real good. Yeah, fuck yeah, I'm going to go piss on it. Show just how angry I am. But this is like gay toxic woman behavior. If you're just primarily motivated by your emotion, by your negative emotion, and you're just going to go spray your negative emotion at everybody, you're not actually producing anything. You're not actually building anything. You're not creating. You are not following your calling as a man. Your calling as a man is to build, produce, and create and exercise dominion over the earth. The fact that bad people exist, the fact that this shitty, corrupt system exists is a direct condemnation of you. It's a direct condemnation of me. It's a condemnation of all of us. That the church is under attack is a fact of life. That everything that is true and beautiful and good is a fact of the reality that we live in because human beings chose this reality. We chose to bring these things into the world. And the things that piss you off the most that you see in other people are most likely the things you're guilty of yourself. And you're projecting them onto other people. A lot of this, I've mentioned this before, that a lot of these guys, these little like JQ Spurgs, it's really just penis envy. When they spend all their time, they're just raging about these fucking black guys and white women, and look at these women, they're getting perverted by all these black guys, and there's the Jews, and the Jews control everything, and they bend society to their will, and they're just, it's penis envy. They're just jealous they don't have that themselves. Which isn't a bad thing in and of itself. The fact that you're jealous of that, there's something good in there. There's something deep in your system that craves those things because you deserve those things. But you deserve those things only as an effect of the actions you've taken to earn them. Those are the rightful consequence of the proper behavior. If you're just thinking that it's owed to you, well, I was born and the boomers fucked everything up and I don't get to have this wholesome society anymore. Why don't I get? I deserve it. You got to have a happy society and high trust. Well, why don't I deserve that too. Yeah, you deserve it if you can create it. It's also bad that they destroyed it. These are both true. But it's not owed to you. You have to actively take the actions to create that. I just realized we've been staring at a paused face of Massey here the whole time. Another clip here where he talks about his relationship with Trump. So he's talking about the CARES Act and when he was the one holdout that pissed everyone off. Area 51. So it was right at the tail end of this conversation, so we'll just pick it up here.
Like, what about the trucker who's out there driving and interacting with people in order to get the goods to where you need to be? For my 3 days of nourishment in an SUV, eating I got to do. I got my kids, and you all just stay home. It's dangerous. Like, we'll just do it by unanimous consent. And it was 11 p.m. I'm sitting in my living room, and they send us this message, and I'm like, WTF? Like, this is twice the size of the omnibus bill, right? This is going to cause massive inflation. The policies in it are going to cause shortages. And if we don't show up to vote, we're sending a message to all 50 states that you don't have to show up to vote in this election. So it was like, I got to do. I got my car, and I drove 8 hours. I slept 1 hour in a rest stop because I knew I had to be there by 9 a.m. This was March 27th, 2020. Actually, the 25th is the day I got to Congress to stop it. And I got there and I said, it's not going by unanimous consent. And I was literally sleeping in my wife's SUV, eating those peanut butter filled pretzels. Like, I had a big jug of those.
Those are good. Yeah.
For my 3 days of nourishment. I was in an SUV, eating that big tub of pretzels with peanut butter in the middle, like just waiting for them to try to call it in session and sneak this bill past. And they're like, shit, Massey's going to do it. So they loaded up congressmen. You know, the airports were shut down for the most part. There were some planes coming from California that only had 2 passengers, and they were both congressmen. So they roll them all back to Congress. It takes them 2 days to assemble a quorum. Because they went to the parliamentarian and they're like, is there any way around this? They're like, nope, Massey's right. The Constitution requires a quorum. If one, he didn't call me an asshole, but if one asshole just shows up, objects, and says there's no quorum here. So they brought everybody back. I go to the floor. Everybody was hating me. I mean, everybody. You know what it's like to be in a room of 434 people and they're all staring at you like, I had maybe 10 friends who were like looking at me like, that guy's dead. We've never seen Harry Carey like this. They were worried for me, but the rest of them hated me. They would come up to me and say, I live with my mother, and when I go back home, you're going to cause me to take COVID to her, and she's going to die, and I'm blaming you for this. And I said,
so that's your face?
Yeah, yeah. Well, like, no, it wasn't just one. It was like when he was done, there was a line of people. I just like stood there and they're all come to hate on me. And I was like, but what about the guy that's going to the grocery store and bagging your groceries and carrying them out to the car? Does he live with his mother too? Like, what about the trucker who's out there driving and interacting with people in order to get the goods to where you need to be? What about the nurse who's going to work every single day, taking care of people? Is she going to kill her parents? Like, why are you special? Like, you're supposed to, they carved a whole side of a mountain in West Virginia for us in the case of emergency.
Yes.
Well, the sad but realistic thing is now they don't have a place for us. We're so useless, right? They're just like, well, here's where we were going to keep them if shit hit the fan. But now we realize they're like useless. We can declare war without them in the event of a nuclear strike. So, they're just a rounding error. In the 3 branches, we can operate with 2.
Yes, I've noticed.
So anyways, these are the kind of people who are supposed to respond in an emergency, and they all wanted to stay home. They all hate me for recognize our constitutional duty. And Trump called me 3 times on the floor of the House while I was getting ready to make the motion to object. And I let it go to voicemail 3 times in a row. It was probably not good, but I couldn't leave the microphone because I was asking people, would you make this motion if I go to the restroom? They're like, oh, no, not me. So I sat there. I finally, they yielded time for debate. I go off the floor and called the White House switchboard back. And I didn't have his number. I just like, if you want to tour the White House, you call the number I called, right? And like the intern is like, oh, is this Congressman Massey? I'm putting you through to Trump right now. And so he comes on and he goes, I'm coming at you like you've never seen. Never in your life before have you seen the way in which I will come at you. I'm more popular than you in Kentucky, and you know it. I'm back in your primary opponent, and you're gonna lose. And I'm like, oh crap, I probably will lose. I mean, he had 95% popularity among my Republican electorate, who I had to face in about 8 weeks in my primary. And I had a well-funded opponent, and here now Trump was mad at me. So he screamed at me for 2 or 3 minutes. I kept trying to talk, and he just screamed louder. Then he repeated it all. He goes, no, this is the second time you've done something like this. And they talked me out of it before, but not this time. And then you're going to lose. And he hangs up. And like, the thing is, like, he said he thought it was the second time. I'd done that like 8 times since he was president. He just started.
Tucker's laugh just absolutely wrecks me. It is so freaking hilarious. The next clip I'm going to show you guys when he's talking about Theo Vaughn, they actually talk about it head on. But just, I'll say some of the thoughts I had for that because it's he addresses exactly what I was going to say about it.
Realizing it's the same guy. The time before that was on war with Iran. The Democrats were in majority, and he had just vaporized Soleimani.
Yeah.
And we were worried that he would attack mainland Iran without a vote of
I like how Massey says that he vaporized Soleimani.
Congress. So the Democrats, actually insincerely, there aren't too many anti-war Democrats left.
I've noticed.
But they realized this was a chance to make a statement. So they put a bill on the floor saying, Trump, you can't go to war with Iran without a vote of Congress, which is constitutionally obvious. So I had to vote for it, but I was only one of 3 Republicans to do it. So he remembered that time, but he didn't remember the fake Obamacare repeal and some of the other things that I was kind of the turd in the punch bowl on.
Did it change your views at all?
No. The president tweeted that I was a third-rate grandstander, and that like this is before I got back to my seat. Like I go back from the speaker's lobby to go to my seat to get ready to make the motion.
I absolutely love the image of Trump sitting there at the Resolute desk, and he like calls Massey, and he's screaming at him, and then he gets off the phone and immediately starts fucking tweeting this fucking goddamn guy. He's pissing me off. I absolutely could not adore the man more.
And one of the Congress was like, you better look at your phone, Massey, look at your Twitter. And I turn it on. He's like tweeting hard and heavy against me. He said I should be thrown out of the party. And then the best one is, I'm chairman of the Second Amendment Caucus. So his third tweet was, he's terrible on guns. It's like, what? Where did that come from? Have you seen my Christmas card picture? Right.
What's your Christmas card picture?
Well, it's a little infamous.
No, I've actually seen it, but just for the benefit of those who have not.
So, family together for Christmas, and we got bluegrass instruments out. We play music together, and we took a Christmas card picture with bluegrass instruments. And I said, hey, wouldn't it be kind of neat if we just like changed these all out for machine guns, and took a picture? And that was supposed to stay on my phone for eternity. But I'd had a couple medical margaritas one night. I don't do medical marijuana, but I had a few medical margaritas, and I looked at that picture and I thought, well, that's a pretty good picture. I'd be ashamed if nobody ever saw it. And I tweeted it, and I caught all kinds of hate for that.
It's a great picture.
The Archbishop of Canterbury condemned it. This is the head of the Church of England condemned my tweet. I'm like, oh my God.
Are you an Episcopalian?
I'm Methodist.
Good, so you can ignore him.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a disgrace.
So anyways, the press asked me we're talking about the need to be liked gene, right? If I had that, I would have been devastated that day. If I had needed to be liked, I couldn't have carried that through. And I walked out of that chamber. Everybody's hating me in the chamber. Nancy Pelosi called me a dangerous nuisance. CNN called me the most hated person in D.C. John Kerry called me an asshole or something. And President Trump called me a third-rate grandstander. This is all in the course of a few minutes, right? I walk out of the chamber of the House, and the reporters like swarm me, like they do. And I'm just trying to run back to the SUV with the pretzels with peanut butter in them and get out of there. And the press said, what do you have to say for yourself? Your own president just called you a third-rate grandstander. And I paused for a second, and I said, I was offended. I'm at least second-rate. So anyway,
what happened to your relationship with Trump?
I think he respects people that stand up.
Yep.
Even if he
I think you're absolutely right.
Disagrees with you.
Yes, that's correct.
And 2 years later, he did endorse me.
No way.
Yep.
Okay. A couple other thoughts. So, number one, Tucker's commentary on the Archbishop of Canterbury is interesting because I believe Tucker is an Episcopalian. He gets into this pretty in detail in his conversation, I believe, on the Sean Ryan show, which is a must listen. If you haven't listened to his conversation with Sean Ryan, that needs to be the next thing in your queue. His conversation with Sean Ryan, his conversation with Dave Smith was very interesting for both of them. And then the conversation with Eric Prince is really good. His conversation with Aaron Rodgers is really good too. You got to sit through some kind of, hippie shit, basically. But you know, my read on that is the hippie shit that they're entertaining is an improvement on the where they're coming from. They're beginning to move directionally in the right direction. The thing about this is like no matter how far away you are, you're far away. But trajectory matters. So the hippie shit is like I think they're having the best takeaways from it that they could. Anyways, go listen to those conversations. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts after you consume those bits of content there. The other thing I was going to mention was Massey's talking about the effect of Archbishop. Yeah, I think Tucker. I'll say this real quick. I think Tucker is not going to be Episcopalian for very long. If you listen to those conversations, you listen to his thoughts on fatherhood and marriage and God and the proper posture of the human spirit. He is. I would not at all be surprised to learn that he's been listening to Lord of Spirits. He drops so many little nuggets that are like, man, that is. If he's not listening to Lord of Spirits, he's got to be listening to like Jonathan Pajot or something in that direction. So yeah, Buck says if Tucker is an Orthodox within a few years, I'd be shocked. Yeah, I mean either Orthodox or Roman Catholic, like a TLM guy or something like somewhere along those lines is the direction he's very very clearly heading. He's a traditionalist man for sure. But so one of the things Massey touches on in this interview is the part of the title is the cowards in Congress. And Tucker asks him like your coworkers, the people that you work with every day, like what are they like basically? And he said for the most part they're kind of just like they're just shallow, easily movable people who just want to be liked and just want to be popular and don't have the spine to stick up for what's right. And that's he referenced it there. You have the need to be liked gene. And he just doesn't have that, but all the rest of them do, which makes sense if we're basically what we were just talking about. If they're being targeted and groomed and funded and put into position so that they can manipulate the levers of power, they can be proxies for manipulating the levers of power, then then people are naturally going to select for, like if you're looking for a guy to go do your bidding on Capitol Hill, you're going to look for a guy who's easily moved and easily swayed. So there's a natural selection effect that's going to highlight those types of people. And I think it's something valuable to remember when you're talking about these structures of power and the people that operate within them. Overwhelmingly, there's a great banality to this, where these are just like they're individually weak, unimpressive, unoriginal, not very intelligent people who have just they know how to play the game, and they have people that will help them play the game, and they have the lizard brain instinct to just do the thing. Like he mentions in his Sean Ryan interview, he said the types of people who have been cultivated, have gone through all the colleges, and they participate in this globalist, internationalist, bourgeois, Western, high society culture. People who think a certain way naturally come to the same conclusions. There doesn't even have to be a coordinated conspiracy for them to naturally, he called it a conspiracy of instinct, which I think is a really good way of putting it. These people have the same instincts because they exist in the culture. They all exist in this walled off class where they live in this fake reality. And their instincts have all been tuned by the experiences that they've had to be funneled up to this point. What this also means is that they're completely detached from reality. So they're not that formidable of an opposition. Their formidability is in their sheer numbers. It's a horde of zombies. Each individual zombie might not be that impressive, but if you've got a horde of them that are all beating down your doors and climbing through your windows, then yeah, you're going to have a rough time. IQ scores don't matter when you've got a bunch of zombies pouring in your windows. But I think it's a valuable observation that the vast majority of these people that kind of govern the doors into power are individually very unimpressive. They're very predictable. All the screeching and moaning about them inevitably doing predictably the exact thing that you would predict that they would do is just impotence signaling. Of course they're doing that. That's precisely what they're put there for. Also, if you understand this matrix, if you see the levers of power and you understand who's moving them and how they're being moved, you can game it. You can take advantage of it. And this is fun. This ought to be fun. It's never been easier to take over the levers of power without shedding blood. You don't actually have to go out and fight a war to take over these levers of power. You just have to have like a little bit of foresight and coordination. And you have to rid yourself of the clutches of the people who want to just drag you back down into the bucket and not allow you to do anything. Because anytime anybody does anything, they're a Fed. Yeah, I think we need more Feds, personally. I want to have Feds that are biased toward representing my interests. I want to have Feds that are, oh, we got to compromise with these guys. And this is what's happening. You're seeing this happen right now. There is some utility in this massive horde of Anons online rampaging the replies in the comment sections of all the regime propaganda. It forces them to have to adapt and accommodate. And we could do that. We could put ourselves in the position where the regime is forced to compromise with us. Now, this becomes a matter of framing because inevitably that people see this as, oh, we're compromising with the regime. No, the regime is compromising with us. And a little bit of progress is better than none at all. A little bit of advancement of our interests is better than none at all. Because if we get a little bit, we can build on a little bit. We can't build on nothing. You can build on a small foundation. You can't build on no foundation. So get us a little bit. But the job doesn't stop there. This is the same mentality that leads someone to be like, oh, well, the Constitution says, and the Constitution doesn't enforce itself. Yeah, you're not going to get like your one policy that just magically fixes everything. It's not like just elect these certain people. This is the libertarian fallacy. Oh, we just got to get these people to see libertarianism. We just got to get people woke to the JQ. We just got to get people to understand that Hitler wasn't wrong or whatever the position someone has. Simply noticing isn't enough. Noticing is passive. You have all these guys that go after all the prominent right-wing guys, and this isn't just the Fuentes stands. This is a viral meme that, oh, he's not noticing. He doesn't notice enough. Noticing is a passive activity. There's a deep irony in this. Everyone needs to notice. Okay, then what? I remember the debate I had with Angela McArdle. I was talking with Cooper about this yesterday. I had the debate with Angela McArdle, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. Shout out Mark Claire. And I don't remember the exact prompt of the debate, but it was basically, do we need another Ron Paul revolution? And I said, no, we don't need another Ron Paul revolution because the last one was a failure. What good was the Ron Paul revolution if it brought you to the point of deciding we need another Ron Paul revolution? Then what? Are we going to need another Ron Paul revolution? And then another one, and then another one? It's a pyramid scheme. I observe the fact that we need a Ron Paul revolution. So then I convince other people of the fact that we need a Ron Paul revolution. So then I convince other people of the fact that we need a Ron Paul revolution. And then they go convince more people, and they go convince more. Then what? That was my question for her. Then what? We need to wake people up to libertarian ideas. Okay, then what? Well, they could get them to vote for libertarians. Okay, then what? Get libertarians in office. Okay, then what? Pass libertarian policies. Okay, then what? Is there any plan here? Is there any foresight, or is there any, what's the goal? What's the ultimate end here? If the ultimate end is just destroy the state or whatever, privatize the Fed. First of all, the Fed is already, anyways, you privatize, okay, so you take their lever of power away from them, and then they're going to use a different lever of power. So then what's your plan? You're going to go take that one away too? Then what's your plan? There's no foresight here. It's just like this emotional, people think like me. Make people think like me. This is what noticing is. The great irony here is that these people who care so much about noticing and getting people to notice, they just want their ideas reflected back to them, which is fine. This is a base impulse. Yeah, I want my culture to reflect my ideals to me. Yeah, great. Okay. But if this is your measuring stick, oh, you have to notice. There's no utility in that. What are you going to do with this? What are you going to do once people notice? Then what do they do? That's what we need to be working on. There has to be let's use the gay buzzword. There has to be a praxis beyond just simply noticing. Because the great irony, I was going to say this a minute ago, the great irony is if you just want people to notice and you're just going out trying to get people to notice, but you're not backfilling with any sort of protection, building, creation, providing value to society to make people want more from you, if you're not backfilling with any of that, you're actually working against your own ends. Someone like Orrin McIntyre writes his book, and he gets attacked from what appears to be two sides. But really, is it actually two sides? Because fundamentally, what both sides that would attack him are complaining about is you don't talk about Jews in the right way. That's like every conversation now has to be about Jews. Like, who wants that to be the case? Who wants every conversation to reduce back to this same thing? That seems kind of like the impulse of a narcissist. Every conversation has to be about me. Everything needs to revolve around me. Well, what if we don't want everything to revolve around you? The way to do that isn't to make everything revolve around you. The way to do that is build different things and revolve around the other things. What you focus your attention on is what you worship. So all these people who are just agitating for noticing are just worshiping Jews. That's what it comes down to. So here is the other Tucker conversation I wanted to share with you guys, a clip from the start of his conversation with Theo Von. Now, excuse me. Now, I don't know about you guys, but Theo Von is one of the funniest human beings alive. And I wouldn't necessarily think that a conversation between him and Tucker would be like super interesting. I wouldn't think they would necessarily connect, but the chemistry that they had was fantastic. It's really awkward at first, but then they really settle into it. And reading through the comments was interesting because Theo's audience is not Tucker's audience. In fact, most of Theo's audience is probably inclined to dislike Tucker for one reason or another. And there was a lot of comments in it that were like, wow, I see Tucker in a whole new light. I had no idea Tucker could just chill like this. Like, it's amazing seeing the chemistry you guys have, the way you're able to bounce off of each other. You know, Tucker's a really interesting person, which to me, this is a very positive thing because I like the direction Tucker is going. So the more people who pay attention to the direction Tucker is going and follow him along that path, the better we're going to be. So let's share this here and watch a couple of the funny things at the beginning. They address Tucker's laugh, and that's one of the big things I wanted to highlight here.
Insert is in.
Oh, you need a spit cup?
You gotta try this product. It's unbelievable.
Maybe I'll try one towards the end of the episode.
It will wind you up.
Really?
Yes. Once you try this, you're gonna get a lot richer.
Zen? Is that their advertising campaign?
Zen is not a sin. That's the advertising campaign.
Really?
Yeah, but the truth is Zen is a powerful work enhancer and also a male enhancer, if you know what I mean.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like an erection, huh?
Yep. There's no election for a Zen.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want a Zen supported wiener. You know, I don't know.
I think you do.
You think so? Oh yeah, because you want people to get addicted to
Just
it.
close your eyes.
Oh, damn.
Like that.
That's a neighbor saying, "Hey, it's real quiet over there."
Just whack it on the nightstand.
Ah,
Sorry, excuse me. Sorry.
dude, I would hate to have a real long wiener if you have a cat. That would be the fucking. That would be the fucking.
That'd be dangerous.
It would be dangerous.
Talking about a cat toy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but you'd have to put a little bell at the end of it or something.
You would. And a feather.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, man. We never met. Dude, you have such a crazy laugh, don't you?
It's real.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I shouldn't say that.
It's very high. Are we on TV?
Huh?
Is this being recorded?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
my
done with
laugh
her.
is very high, and that's how you know that it's real because it's so embarrassing, and I do it anyway.
I like that. Yeah, and I should have said that. It's not nice to condemn somebody's laugh or whatever.
So you can't hurt my feelings.
Okay.
Go ahead and
Oh,
try.
well, I'll give it a run, man.
Okay, good.
No, I think your laughing kind of reminds me of like a proud kind of grandmother from like maybe the 1850s or something. Maybe
totally sending her boys off to
Yeah.
war.
or like a woman that just got a new cookie recipe in the mail. You know.
yeah. It's joyful, but there's a sort of undertone of diabolic.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
There's
in
like-
my case, it's totally real. And again, it's not an appealing laugh. It's not like, wow, what a manly laugh that is. It's not a chortle. It's more a giggle.
Yeah. No, it seems like
Yeah.
a kid. Yeah, like kids would love it. It seems like
But not too much.
yeah, it reminds me of like Winnie the Pooh kind of. You know, you low-key do have a Christopher Robin vibe if he grew up. You know.
Well, thank you.
Ah. Okay. Looks like the stream went down on YouTube, so I'm going to restart the stream, and we'll pick this back up again because I've got some more stuff I want to get into. Apparently, Theo Vaughn doesn't want people sharing his material.